It has been a wild summer for ESPN.
Previous layoffs of behind the scenes people, they took a big chunk.
And right when you thought things can't get any worse,
It's one of a series of moves that is forthcoming for ESPN.
all of a sudden they do.
The difference between now compared to 2009 is that I won't be blindsided. I'll see it coming.
And it seems like this company is desperate to either make a splash or is clinging on for dear life. We have a lot to talk about here, man. Before we get to the content, make sure you follow us on X. We're going to be giving away $1,000 to 5 followers. Once we get to 40,000 followers there, I think we're really close. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL is finally back.
That's impossible!
But I'm gonna admit, the preseason is boring as shit. I mean, when the second stringers and third stringers come out, your boy does tend to fall asleep a little bit. But I found a way to make the preseason all the more interesting. Because ladies and gentlemen, we are back! Posting prize picks on the days that there are significant preseason games, starting from the Hall of Fame game all the way to the Super Bowl. Your boy is going to be making picks on his Instagram story. The picks are free. All you have to do is follow me on Instagram to get them. And if you haven't signed up for prize picks, right now when you use my promo code microphone, you'll double your deposit up to $100. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsorship. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Growing up as a young little Mike, every single morning at about 6:30 a.m., as I was getting ready for school, my mom would put SportsCenter on our television back when I was living in Arlington, Texas. I would become updated on all the latest stories as I was getting ready to go to school so I could talk to my buddies about the exciting prospect coming out of Akron St. Vincent High School, who was dubbed as the chosen one and also considered to be the greatest NBA prospect since Michael Jordan. Hey, wait, hold on. He lived up to the billing. So there's no question about it. ESPN had a very dominant presence in my childhood, and that dominant presence in my childhood heavily influenced me. As you could see, this is currently what I do for a living. Very similarly to me watching sports anchors on SportsCenter, I think I kind of do something similar on YouTube. I feel like that was heavily influenced by the content I consumed as a kid. And it seems like recently ESPN has strayed away from what has made them so dominant to begin with. Now, all of it isn't necessarily their fault. I mean, the main reason I watched it as a kid was because that was the only place you could get sports highlights from. You either went to watch sports highlights on SportsCenter, and if you missed SportsCenter, or if you missed the one segment that featured your favorite team, you're screwed. There was no rewind back then. We're talking about 2001 and 2002 for crying out loud. There was no Instagram or TikTok or X to consume the content and the information from a reputable content creator like TheFlightMike or Microphone. Jokes aside, now that there are other publications where you could get your sports news from, that obviously put a dent in ESPN's bottom line, but that wasn't necessarily something that they could control. What they could control, though, was recently a lot of their talent have either left the company as a result of them being laid off, and we're going to get to why they got laid off in just a sec, or they would have their talent say very questionable things on air. We've covered on this channel Malika Andrews, for instance. When Adrian Payne passed away, this is how Malika Andrews presented his passing to everyone.
Former Michigan State star Adrian Payne was shot and killed in Orlando, Florida, early Monday morning. He was waived by the Magic after he was named in a report by ESPN's Outside the Lines that he'd been involved in an alleged assault at Michigan State in 2010. No charges were filed in that case.
Which I honestly wouldn't mind if you brought up Adrian Payne in the past and his low point, if you will, during the time of his passing. But she didn't even provide context to what happened to Adrian Payne, why he was in that situation to begin with. It was very much like she was trying to cancel the guy. It's like, hey, he did this one bad thing once. She read you the title and she didn't really give you all the details. Because if she did give you the details, she would have included that Adrian Payne was was in that situation because he was trying to save someone's life. But we made many videos on Adrian Payne, just as we made videos on what she said about Joe Mazzulla once he got hired to replace Ime Udoka because Ime Udoka was suspended for engaging in a alleged consensual relationship with another Boston Celtics employee. So even as the Boston Celtics tried to do justice by their female employee, I guess justice, depending on where you stand on that, by elevating an assistant coach and giving him his opportunity, this is what Malika Andrews had to say about Joe Mazzulla.
Be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar. The domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service. Now, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines. So, Woj, why are the Celtics choosing him as their next head coach?
And then this brings us all the way to our more recent situation during the NBA draft. Once again, Malika Andrews lazily mentioned Brandon Miller's involvement in a case that he was complicit in on national television right as this young man was about to experience one of the peak moments of his life. This is how Malika Andrews introduced him.
Miller, his name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder in the fatal shooting of 23-year-old Jamia Harris in January.
But this isn't a video on Malika Andrews. Those were just instances of ESPN losing their way. And I guess you could say the reason why they lost their way was because they aligned with a particular political ideology. And I'm not saying they chose the wrong ideology. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you why it's not intelligent to align with one party and alienate a completely different party. You can see what happened to Bud Light after they recorded the worst ad they could have for their audience. And before people think I'm taking a political stance here, the reason I'm saying this is the best way that ESPN could have gone, or Disney could have gone in this instance, would be not choosing a political side. As Michael Jordan said best, Republicans buy shoes too. It's also why you'll never have me pushing a particular ideology down your throat because, well, I feel like mainstream media does that to you guys enough. And at the end of the day, I consume sports to get away from all of that. But do you know who does agree with me? Stephen A. Smith. Remember, in his video, The Bottom Line Never Escapes Us, which I believe deserves significantly more viewership than it has on his podcast, where Stephen A. Smith initially mentions that COVID really did a number on Disney.
The coronavirus pandemic was not just in the United States of America. It was worldwide. You have any idea how much money was lost?
Stephen A. Smith would then mention that Disney lost $5.5 billion and brings up the fact that they aligned with the left in their ideology and message that they wanted to convey, which pinned them in a corner when Ron DeSantis signed a bill that made it forbidden for public school teachers to instruct on orientation or gender identity in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. This bill was branded as Don't Say Gay, but why is this all important? Because
had folks boycotting or protesting outside the walls of Disney because they wanted Disney to speak up about the Don't Say Gay policy. But you knew DeSantis would come back. You knew folks on the right who supported him and supported that ideology would speak out. You've got folks on other side of the ideology that galvanize and speak out against such positions. And how do they exact revenge? By affecting your bottom line.
So since Disney didn't speak up on it, a lot of people on the left got pissed. And then people on the right are really pissed at Disney because, well, you aligned yourself with the left. You're essentially alienating two groups of people at once if you don't speak up on this one bill that the governor of Florida signed. So they did what they had to do. They spoke up on it. They spoke up against it. And what happened as a result of that? Well, Ron DeSantis declared war on Disney. So why am I bringing all this up? Well, Disney has lost $5.5 billion. Their movies haven't necessarily been hitting. They've put out flop after flop after flop. So who is taking the fall for this? Well, ESPN is. ESPN recently laid off a number of personalities, including Ashley Brewer, Jalen Rose, Jeff Van Gundy, LaFonso Ellis, Max Kellerman, Neil Everett, Nick Friedman, Dale, and most recently, Mark Jackson. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Jackson's gone. Now, this is really odd because at the same time, they're acquiring Pat McAfee. They're also in talks with Shannon Sharpe, try to bring him on. But I'm assuming this is what they're trying to do in order to make ESPN a little bit more modern, and as they should, because recently we found out Fox Sports 1's cable carriage estimates surpassed ESPN for the first time. Per the Sports Business Journal, Nielsen's latest estimates indicate that FS1 is now in 71.375 million households, down from 73.906 million in January. Despite the drop, FS1 has edged ahead of ESPN, which is now 71.321 million households. In January, ESPN had 74.153. But that's not the only bad news. Mark Jackson recently said this about his departure. This morning, unexpectedly, I was informed that my services were no longer needed at ESPN. Although shocked and dismayed with the suddenness of it all, I would like to thank ESPN and all the staff of the NBA ESPN crew for allowing me to be a part of the organization for the past 15 plus years. I would also like to thank the NBA fans watching at home and in the arenas throughout the league for all of your support. The NBA, a heartfelt thank you for allowing a kid to continue to accomplish his dreams. It has been an honor to sit beside two legends in the business who are like brothers to me, Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy, and learned so much from them. Lisa Salters is a GOAT and like a sister to me, and I'm so proud of the work she continues to do. To the best producer in the world and my friend Tim Corrigan, I give the utmost gratitude and thanks for always inspiring and supporting me. To all of the staff and crew that may have never been seen on camera, please know that you were always seen by me and so greatly appreciated. Finally, I wish greater measures of success to the new ESPN team. May they continue to elevate this game that has given me a home and a life. I leave ESPN with nothing but gratitude, all the while knowing that my highest praise goes to God. Through it all, He has always sustained me, and His grace allows me to know that there are greater blessings ahead. I look forward to what He has in store next. Blessings, Mark J. So obviously, Mike Breen had something to say about this because he is really not happy about the situation. And this also comes after the report that we hear about who their potential replacements are. Mike Breen admits that losing his dream partners has left him stunned. It's sad because we really thought we had something special, and that's going to be thought going forward that we were able to do it a lot longer than anybody ever did. Something we'll all treasure, but we just wish it was a little longer. Honestly, that was a great trio. It's really sad because this summer we've seen a lot of great teams broken up, including Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless, which we've covered on my microphone channel ad nauseum. So what is the plan here? Well, ESPN plans on hiring Doc Rivers, laying off Mark Jackson, and promoting Doris Burke, which I don't think is the worst strategy. I mean, I don't necessarily know how I feel about Doc Rivers replacing Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy. Apparently, the reason why Jackson was let go was without Van Gundy, ESPN thought that Jackson wouldn't offer as much, and he only had 2 years remaining on his contract. And apparently, the reason why Van Gundy was let go is he has a desire to coach again. So they were afraid that he may leave just to go back and coach. So what is the plan for ESPN? Well, this isn't something I really believe because you hear this almost every single time a rival sports analyst is about to hit the market, but I'll give it to you guys just in case. ESPN is very interested in bringing back Colin Cowherd. ESPN is very interested in a reunion. The brass in Bristol views Cowherd as the answer to their struggling ratings on ESPN radio, said sources. The monster negotiation coming up for Fox is Colin. His ratings are at an all-time high, and he causes 0 issues, unlike Skip Bayless. This war between Fox and ESPN just got really spicy because you have Shannon Sharpe, who currently is a free agent, who has been in talks with ESPN, by the way, and they've been teasing Shannon Sharpe showing up to First Take, and we covered that on microphone as well. And now you have Colin Cowherd, who's doing really well on radio, who's about to hit free agency as well in 2025, I believe. Now, this should be really interesting. It's important to note that Cowherd is happy with his successful 8-year run at FS1. His long-running show, The Herd with Colin Cowherd, airs simultaneously on FS1 and Fox Sports Radio, and he also appears on the Fox NFL Kickoff Sunday pregame show. This will probably be to replace Jay Will and Max because they recently let go of Keyshawn Johnson and Max Kellerman, but we'll see what ESPN is going to do, man. It seems like the plan is bringing in Pat McAfee, bringing in Shannon Sharpe as a contributor role. Stephen A. Smith even said he wanted Shannon Sharpe, and then potentially poaching Colin Cowherd. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Do you think that ESPN could solve their crisis? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.